Okay, in this video I'm going to show you the proper way to flare a line so that you can join the rusted brake line back together in the car. Put it onto the section of line that you're going to be replacing. In this particular case, I changed about a 3-foot section of line. All right, you put the tube cutter onto the line, tighten it up. Okay. And then the tube cutter will cut a nice section of line out without causing any crushing of the inside diameter of the line. And you turn it and you just keep cutting little by little. You tighten it up and you twist it, and it cuts it off and makes it a nice clean cut, which I'll show you shortly. What happens is the brake lines rot away, and once the brake lines start to rot away, you need to replace them, obviously, so you can get pressure to the brakes. That's what happened on this one here. It just rotted through, and you wind up with a hydraulic leak. A lot of guys, what they do is they'll do what's called a compression union. Compression unions are great when you have a thicker line and you have a very large inside diameter. Problem is when you're dealing with a line that only has an interior diameter, so this is a 3/16 brake line. The inside diameter is so small. If you crush that down, you're going to lose pressure to the wheels. When you put a coupling compression union on here and you join it together, the way it works is that it screws down over the top of the line. You put that little brass fitting over the top. This goes onto it like that, and you tighten it down. And what it does is this brass fitting right here crushes into the metal tubing, but by doing that it reduces the inside diameter. So the correct way to do a brake line is not to use these compression unions. The way you want to do it is you want to cut the line off, the section of line that's no good, which is what I did. We cut it out, and I'm going to show you the right way to flare a new brake line. What you want to do is take the section of line that you need. Obviously, the one end is flared already, and as you can see, I'll show you what a good flare looks like. That's what a good flare looks like. This is the fitting that's on the brake line. And what we did is I cut the other end here to install it into the car. And what you do is make sure you have your fitting over the brake line in the direction that you want to have it connecting onto the car itself. Right? Then they have a tool. It's a double flaring tool, and in this particular case, it's 3/16. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the line into the flaring tool. And let me set it up and then I'll show you how to do it. You have to have the line itself has got to stick through the top of the flaring tool just a little bit, not too much, because you're going to actually take this tube and you're going to crush it down into the hole, obviously 3/16, but it creates a little, like a mushroom top on here so we can flare it later on. Right? What you got to do is you tighten down the tube into the tool, and you want to have it sticking through the top of the tool about the height of the tool itself, like that. All right? What you do is you tighten the tool up. You want to have it fairly tight, because it'll hold the tube in there without sliding, because inside the tool itself it's all ribbed to hold it from sliding. Right? Then what you do is you take the tool that goes in the top of the line here, you put it in through the top like that. You take your tool, put it over the top, tighten it down, and now what we're going to do is we're going to crush that top of the tubing down into the top of the tool so that it becomes like mushroomed, and then we'll tighten it down all the way until the tool touches into the top of the other metal part of the tool. Take your time with this and you won't have any problem. All right, so it's crushed down. As you can see, the metal piece of this part of the tool is now touching into the top of the tool itself. So we're going to take this off of here, and we're going to remove the inside portion of it. Okay, so we just unscrew this. We're going to take this off. And as you can see, I told you about the line. It's mushroomed the top of the line, so that now is a lot more area for me to actually put the other tool on to make it a nice flare. All right, so then after you have that, you put this over the top, and you screw this down right into the top, like that. Right into the top of the tube itself, and then you tighten the tool all the way down until it doesn't go any further. Obviously, when it's here on the bench, it's a lot easier than doing it in the car, but in the car, we'll see what I'm doing. All right, you tighten it down all the way down until it doesn't go any further, which is where it is now, and then we'll open it up. I'll take this off and remove the tool. And that's what the flare looks like. I'll show you. Let me slide this up. See? It's a nice flare. You can't tell the difference between the flare that I just did and the original flare that came with the line when we bought it. Alright? Then the way you would join this together in the car, you would flare the other section of line in the car, and then you join it together with what's called a coupling, not a compression unit, a coupling. As you can see, the coupling is tapered inside, and this taper here on the flare that we just did fits perfectly into that and keeps the fluid from leaking out. So you would join it together by just putting this fitting on here, tighten this up, and then we'll do the exact same flaring on the car itself. Now what you'll need to do is you'll need to you can't flare a rusty part of the line. You'll need to get to a section of the line in the car that's in good condition so that you can flare it and you have a nice clean surface. So let's go over to the car, and I'll show you what it should look like when it's all done. Alright, this is now underneath the car, and I just want to show you what happens when the lines are all rotted away. This is where the lines were rotted out. This is it's an antique car somebody is restoring. But what happens is we cut that section of line out. We bent it to where it's supposed to be. We flared both ends of the tubing on the original one that I'm putting back in the car, and the one that came from the car original. Once you cut it to a nice section of line, you slide that on there and you do the flaring just like I showed you on the workbench, and then you join the lines together, and the same thing in the other section where you're going to join it together. You find a section of line that's still in decent condition, and you slide your coupling onto that line after you cut it. Cut the section out that's bad. You slide this coupling, the fitting, all the way back into here. You flare the line, and then you would join them back together. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, we're going to secure the line up and out of the way yet, but that gives you an overall idea of how to do it, and we just bleed the air out of the system, and we should be in good shape.